The 1970s were a turning point. Stories got messier, characters more uncertain, and the line between genres began to blur. These 7 films didn't break box office records, but they stuck. Each one captures something essential about the decade's mood. Quietly remarkable, often overlooked, these are the gems worth revisiting. The China Syndrome doesn't play like a thriller at first. There are no shadows on the wall, no last-minute rescues. The tension builds through routine. Monitors hum, switches click. Someone looks too long at a gauge, then looks again. Jane Fonda plays a TV reporter stuck in human interest stories. She stumbles into something bigger. Michael Douglas, as her cameraman, knows how to push. But the film's gravity belongs to Jack Lemmon. His performance isn't explosive, it's slow erosion. A man trained to trust the system begins to see where the cracks are, and how deep they go. Director James Bridge avoids spectacle. This isn't about disaster, it's about denial. The fear isn't what might happen, it's what already has and what no one wants to admit. The screenplay moves like a procedural, quiet steps, technical details, papers in drawers, secrets in plain sight. Made for $5.9 million, the film earned $51 million at the box office. But its long-term legacy is strange. Released just 12 days before the 3 Mile Island incident, it suddenly felt too real to be entertainment. The movie warned, and the world caught up. What makes it a gem is its discipline. No panic, no prophecy, just the steady sense that something is wrong and no one wants to fix it. The China Syndrome never needed special effects. It had something better, a truth that arrived too soon and never left. Bound for Glory 1976 doesn't tell you who Woody Guthrie was, it shows you what he saw. The film doesn't follow the usual biopic rhythm. There's no dramatic breakthrough, no fall from grace, it's not interested in that kind of rise. David Carradine plays Guthrie with a kind of weathered calm. He doesn't perform the character, he travels with him. The film follows Guthrie across Dust Bowl America, through labor camps and rail yards, watching the country not from a podium, but from the back of a moving freight train. Hal Ashby, never one to follow formula, lets the film breathe. Conversations come and go without punctuation. Scenes drift into each other. The story doesn't drive, it wanders. And that's part of the point. Haskell Wexler's cinematography is the true engine. The landscapes stretch, burn, and settle. Light comes in through dirty windows. Skies hang low. There's motion, but rarely momentum. The film is less about Guthrie's songs, and more about the space he wrote them in. Made for $7 million, the film won 2 Academy Awards, including one for Wexler. But its theatrical run was modest. It didn't carry the kind of narrative propulsion audiences expected. It still doesn't. What makes it a gem is exactly what kept it off the mainstream radar. It refuses to shout. It refuses to sell. Bound for Glory is about the road, the view, and the stories that don't fit into a headline. It doesn't tell you what Guthrie meant. It leaves you in the silence between his lines. The Day of the Jackal, 1973, is a thriller without noise. No music cues to tell you when to worry, no chase scenes staged for effect. The danger builds from planning, measured, deliberate, and nearly invisible. Edward Fox plays the Jackal, a hired assassin tasked with killing a head of state. He moves like a man who trusts his own silence. No backstory, no confession. Just a series of steps, each one calm, precise, and necessary. The film doesn't make him larger than life. It makes him believable, and that's what makes him frightening. Director Fred Zinman builds the film like a procedural, cutting between the Jackal's preparation and the authorities racing to catch him. There's no villain's lair, no heroic montage. Only logistics, passports, disguises, hotel registries. The suspense lives in how closely we're allowed to follow, knowing full well it still might not be enough. Shot on a modest $3 million budget, the film was a critical and commercial success, grossing $16 million in the US alone. But it never fully entered the cultural canon. Maybe because it refused to entertain in the usual ways. No stylized action, no clever dialogue, just structure and inevitability. What makes it a gem is its restraint. The Jackal doesn't escalate, he infiltrates. And the film does the same. It's not about whether the shot will be fired, it's about the dozens of decisions that lead to the moment. And how easy it is to miss the most dangerous man in the room because he's not trying to be seen. Shampoo, 1975, takes place over the course of one day. Election Day, 1968. But the film has no interest in the vote. The politics are personal, the chaos romantic. Warren Beatty plays George, a Beverly Hills hairdresser who moves through mansions, bedrooms, and conversations with the same puzzled expression. He's in every room but rarely in control. George is surrounded by women, exes, clients, lovers, but connection eludes him. He's not a predator. He's not a hero. He's available. And that's enough to keep the carousel spinning. Dilkers plays the one who got away, and Goldie Hawn plays the one who thinks she never will. The film doesn't judge them. It doesn't protect them either. Hal Ashby, directing from a script co-written by Beatty and Robert Towne, plays the long game. This isn't a punchline satire, it's behavior as commentary. The characters talk over each other, ignore each other, come together, drift apart. The film watches more than it performs. Made for around $4 million, Shampoo was a box office hit. It spoke directly to its moment, post-60s disillusionment wrapped in California sun. But it doesn't come up often now. Maybe because it's harder to categorize. It's not quite a comedy, not quite a tragedy, and entirely about people who don't know what they want until it's gone. What makes it a gem is how effortlessly it lets the absurdities unfold. No speeches. No symbols. Just people moving through a moment they'll never understand until it's too late. The Mechanic, 1972, doesn't open with gunfire. It opens with observation. A man watches, times routines, tracks his target without a word. The first 10 minutes contain no dialogue, just planning, patience, and precision. That tells you everything you need to know about Charles Bronson's character. He doesn't kill in anger. He kills like someone finishing a job. Bronson plays Arthur Bishop, a hitman who thinks in systems. The film isn't interested in backstory or redemption. It's focused on method. Director Michael Winner leans into silence and slow pacing, letting scenes stretch until they feel clinical. Every act of violence is preceded by minutes of process, and followed by quiet. Enter Jan Michael Vincent, a younger, flashier presence. Bishop takes him on, not out of sentiment, but strategy. This isn't a bond, it's an arrangement. One that's never stable. The idea of mentorship here is stripped down to something transactional and dangerously incomplete. Shot on a modest budget and released into a decade full of louder, faster thrillers, The Mechanic performed modestly. It wasn't a breakout, it was a curiosity. Too slow for action fans, too blunt for art house crowds. But it stayed in circulation. Slowly, it earned a following. What makes it a gem isn't its violence, it's its calm. Its refusal to explain itself. Its confidence in stillness. This isn't a film about killing. It's a film about how a man chooses to disappear into his work, and what happens when someone starts watching him too closely. A Woman Under the Influence, 1974, doesn't open with exposition. It begins with life, awkward, erratic, sometimes tender, sometimes not. There's no score to guide emotion, no narration to explain behavior. Just a woman, trying to hold it together in a world that keeps shifting around her. Gina Rollins plays Mabel Longheady without filter or flourish. She's unpredictable, but never chaotic. Her behavior isn't exaggerated, it's observed. You're not told how to feel, you're simply asked to watch. The film doesn't diagnose her, and it doesn't justify anyone else. It sits with discomfort and dares you to stay there. Peter Falk, as her husband Nick, isn't the villain. He's overwhelmed, frustrated, loving, unequipped. Their relationship isn't a tragedy or a love story. It's a series of misunderstandings shaped by expectation and fear. Cassavetes shoots it all with long takes and minimal editing, letting emotions stretch until they snap. Made for around $1 million, partially funded by Falk himself, the film had no major studio backing. It found life through festivals and word of mouth. Critics praised it. Distributors hesitated. The rawness, the length, the lack of resolution, it didn't fit a market looking for clean arcs or neat endings. But it found its audience. Slowly, quietly. It became a blueprint for independent, performance-driven cinema. This film didn't perform, it lingered. Not everyone talks about it, but once someone sees it, they remember. Because A Woman Under the Influence doesn't build to a moment. It is the moment. Stretched, messy, and deeply human. The Medusa Touch 1978 opens with a man being murdered, violently, and in full view of an audience. Then, he starts breathing again. What follows isn't a whodunit. It's more interested in why, and in the idea that belief, when warped by isolation, can become something dangerous. Richard Burton plays Morlar, a novelist who claims his thoughts can destroy, not figuratively, literally. Planes crash, buildings collapse, people die. All seemingly triggered by his rage. The police investigation unfolds like a standard procedural, but the film keeps drifting, quietly, into something else. Not horror, not fantasy. Something colder. Burton's performance walks a line, calm, wounded, and quietly terrifying. This was a late career role, and it shows. There's a weight to his delivery that feels less like acting, more like a man trying to hold something in. The film surrounds him with clinical detectives, skeptical psychiatrists, and empty corridors, never quite choosing a genre, which is exactly what makes it interesting. Shot in London, with restrained effects and muted color, the film doesn't aim for shocks. With a PG rating, it was never going to compete with bigger, bloodier genre fare. And with limited US release, it slipped past most audiences. But it's a gem, for its tone, for its control, and for how seriously it takes its premise. It never raises its voice, it simply asks, what if destructive power looked like grief instead of rage? That question lingers, long after the credits fade. Not every great film arrives with fanfare. Some take their time, find their audience slowly, and settle in for good. Which 70s gem still plays in your mind long after the credits? Drop it in the comments. And if you love digging up overlooked classics, stick with Vintage Verse.